Hi everybody, welcome to the Juggernaut Training Systems YouTube channel. I'm Chad Wesley Smith, joined as always by Marisa Inda, and today we're going to be talking to you about learning how to deadlift. So if you're a beginner lifter, intimidated to start deadlifting, wondering where to begin, this is going to be the video for you. As always, videos here on the channel are brought to you by the JuggernautAI app. So whether you are a beginner lifter, advanced lifter, big, small, short, tall, young, old, anything in between, you can use the JuggernautAI app because it's going to make a program customized to you. All right, let's get into the video. So the first thing you need to do when learning how to deadlift is find your stance. So today we're just going to be talking about conventional deadlifting. So if you're new to deadlifting, that's with your feet close together, not like you'll see a lot of people complaining about on the internet with your feet wide apart, which is called sumo deadlifting. So a simple way to find your stance in the conventional deadlift is to do a vertical jump. Is that as high as you can jump?
Today.
You want to take the stance in which you jump as high as you can jump. There we go. When I say jump, you say how high. And that foot position is going to be where we start your deadlift stance from. Now, as you get more advanced and changes happen with your training, you might widen it out a little bit. You might narrow it down a little bit, but this is a simple place to start. Depending on your hip mobility, you could go from toes straight, like Marisa has right now, to toes very slightly out, maybe 15, 20 degrees turned out if you find that you have a hard time getting down to the bar. But easy place to start where you do a vertical jump from. Now, as you set up to address the bar, I want to make sure that when you're learning to deadlift, that if you can get bumper plates so the bar can be at the full regular height, that's great. If you're having to use, let's say, 25-pound plates, smaller metal ones, you want to elevate the bar on blocks so it's at its standard height, about 9.5 inches. I kind of pulled that number out of my ass, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. All right, so as you set up to address the bar, you want to be close enough to the bar that it's over the laces in your shoes. So we don't want it out way over the toes, and we don't want it so close that when you're standing upright, it's touching your shins. Because if Marisa was to have the bar touching her shins, as she goes down to grab it, now it's going to push the bar away. If the bar is out over the toes too much, now the bar is going to be too far away from you. It's going to make it feel a lot heavier and be a lot more stressful on your back. So now that we've found your stance, vertical jump with bar over the start of the shoelaces. Now, that could change a little bit, if you wear adult size shoes, size 14s like me, or little kid size shoes, 2.5 like Marisa. But assuming your body is somewhat in proportion to that, it'll all work out. So kind of that first or second lace of the shoes. The flatter shoes you can wear, the better. That's why a lot of people will wear, Chuck Taylors, just deadlifting in socks. Wrestling shoes are another great option. Marisa in the Panda Dunks. The next part of progressing in learning the deadlift is learning how to hinge. The deadlift is a hinge movement at the knee and hip together. It's not a squat. So it's a hip dominant movement. So there's going to be very little movement of the knee relative to the angle in the hip. So learning how to hinge is very, very important. As you think about, if you're watching this, you're new to lifting, you're thinking, what is a hip hinge? All right, a simple way to start doing that exercise is the way that, if you played basketball before and you get tired and you end up in this position, all right, that's going to be how you hinge. So if you put your hands on the front of your thighs, all right, and then just slide them down to your knees. So I'm pushing my butt back, feeling my hamstring stretch, keeping my hand in contact with the leg the whole time. That's going to create a hip hinge. That should get you close enough to the bar where you can get your fingertips on it. From that point, you want to reach down, grab the bar, and then use the bar to pull you down into position. So we're trying to create as vertical a shin as possible with your shoulders slightly like an inch in front of the bar. So if we draw a straight line here, the bar is coming right through Marisa's upper back. So again, it is not a squat. If Marisa was to squat down to the bar, see how her shins come forward, it pushes the bar away from her. And you might feel like, oh, if I get my butt down more, I'm going to be able to use my legs a lot more in the deadlift, but it doesn't really end up working out that way. Because if you try and squat down to the bar, then when you initiate the lift, your hips are going to rise faster than your shoulders. And this is a very common mistake you see with beginner lifters all the way up to advanced lifters. They're trying to squat the bar off the floor and they lose that tension in their hamstrings. So again, we're creating a hip hinge, pushing our hips back, sliding our hand down the thigh, kind of finding that, middle school basketball, bent over, grabbing your shorts, tired position. Use the bar to pull yourself into position, and that is our start position. Bar is through the upper back, eyes forward. We could be looking slightly at the ground. We don't want to be trying to look up at the ceiling, putting ourselves in a ton of extension. So as Marissa's finding her start position in the deadlift, we've got her feet set like she's going to do a vertical jump. She's hinging down to the bar, sliding her hand down her thigh. Now, how wide should her hands be? You want your hands just outside your shins. All right. If you go too wide, you're adding a lot of extra distance. It's going to be hard to create tension in the lats. If you go too close and your hands are kind of in front of your knees, now you're pushing the bar out away from you. Now, there are a couple different ways to grab the bar. You could use what's called a double overhand grip, all right? Or you can use the much stronger over-under grip. So if you're right-handed, it's probably that your right hand is the overhand, where you're looking at the back of the hand, and your left hand is the underhand, all right? Where you're just turning it. That's gonna help you have a much, much stronger grip. If you don't feel comfortable with that and you're brand new to deadlifting, it's probably not a big deal to use a double overhand grip for a while, because the weights that you're gonna be using aren't gonna be challenging your grip that much. I wouldn't get into the habit if you have an aspiration to be a competitive powerlifter at some point. I wouldn't start wearing straps right off the bat. Challenge yourself on how heavy you can go with the double overhand grip and then switch to over-under grip. And as you get down the road with that, if you're starting to think, what, should I do a hook grip? You can watch another YouTube video about that when it's time to hook grip. But our hands are just outside of our shins to find that perfect start position. Next important aspect of learning how to deadlift is how to breathe and brace. So being able to brace through your abs and low back is going to be what keeps your back safe and help you get stronger throughout the deadlift. A lot of people are going to tell you, oh, don't deadlift, it's bad for your back. Having a weak back is bad for your back. Training the deadlift is going to help your back get stronger. As long as we're training it through a strategic, a logical progression, and you're not like, watch this beginner deadlift video and now let me go max out the next day and then just add weight until you're pulling and you look like some sort of question mark as you go. A strategic, smart progression in the deadlift is going to help your back get stronger and be healthier for the long run. But part of that's going to be learning how to breathe and brace. So the way that you want to breathe is as Marissa sets her feet, she's going to take a big breath in and brace her stomach like I'm about to give her one, pow, right in the gut. So you're trying to brace your stomach like you're going to get punched in the abs. So that kind of feeling where I'm not sucking my abs in, I'm not really pushing them out, trying to make a big belly full of air, but I'm just bracing, I'm flexing my abs as hard as I can. So we're going to take a big breath in and flex the abs like you're about to get punched. Then she's going to hinge down to the bar. As she pulls herself in, she can take one more breath in, and that's where we're going to initiate the deadlift from. There's a lot of, kind of a little bit more advanced breathing techniques we can get into, and understanding how to wedge and, a packed neck and all this neutral spine type of stuff. But if you're just starting off, just thinking flex your abs like you're going to get punched in the stomach is a simple way to do that. I'd take your breath at two spots, one when you're standing straight up, so you have the most space to create the most air and pressure. Then as you reach down, one more breath, and go. Early on in your deadlifting career, you probably want to reset every rep and breathe every time until you feel really comfortable with it. Then you'll be able to link several reps together within the same breath, maybe 3 to 5 seconds. So you'd be holding your breath for like 10 to 15 seconds to do that. I have faith that you can do that. And then as you feel even more comfortable, then you can take your breath again at the top. So you'd finish the rep. What you don't want to do is be breathing out while you're lifting the weight. That's gonna be a really common thing that a lot of not great personal trainers or not great advice you're gonna get from people is that Whether you're benching, squatting, or deadlifting, as you're moving the weight, you're breathing out. But when you're breathing out, you're relaxing. When we're lifting the weight, we're applying force. You don't want to be relaxing while you're applying the force. You want to hold that tight braced position the whole time that the weight is in motion. All right, so we've gotten our stance. We've learned how to hinge. We know how to breathe. So now we actually got to lift the weight. So going through our checklist, our feet as wide as they would be when we're doing a vertical jump. The bar over the first or second lace in the shoe. Hinging the hip, sliding your hands down your thighs so your fingertips can touch the bar, then using the bar to pull yourself into position. Big air, flex your abs like you're gonna get punched in the stomach, and now the lift begins. We want our hips and shoulders to rise at the same rate by us pushing our feet into the ground. So a common mistake that people are gonna make is the hip is gonna rise faster than the shoulders. We want to avoid that position. We want to avoid the hips coming up faster than the shoulders. The way that we're going to do that is with a great brace. All right. The second, a little bit more advanced cue that we'll give you, but one of our favorites, as Marissa gets set, we're going to create a tight back. And the cue we use for that is to protect your armpits. So if I was trying to tickle Marissa in the armpits, she's going to squeeze down her tricep into her lat. But the same way that when I was a little kid and my big brothers were tickling me until I'd piss my pants, probably, maybe that happened. That's the feeling you want to have. Very natural, instinctive thing. Someone tries to tickle you in the armpits, you squeeze your arms against your lats. That's going to help create this rigid back position and help you avoid rounding over or your hips rising faster than your shoulders. Big air, abs are flexed, protect the armpits, and we're just pushing the feet into the floor. And that's really as simple as it is. I would love to be able to give you some more nuanced, advanced advice, but you just set the position and then you stand up while you're holding the weight. You know, it's not an overly complex thing. Now, the way that you go back down to the floor is important, and a lot of people early in their deadlifting career will mess that up. They'll do a rep and then they're just dropping it. They're totally losing position. We want to go down the reverse of how we came up. Sounds maybe overly simple, but let's talk about what that looks like. So as Marissa gets set to the bar, she's basically just trying to recreate that position on the way down. So her first move is not bringing her shoulders forward, rather it's pushing her butt back. So she's hinging that same way that she would slide her hands down her thighs to get into the start position. That's the same way she's gonna lower the weight. If you feel good about the position that you're in, you can let the weight rest on the floor for like 1 second and then pull the next rep. If you wanna reset every time, that could be a good way to approach things for a beginner lifter. All right, so that's kind of our simple guide to learn how to deadlift. We're setting our feet where we're gonna do a vertical jump from. We're hinging down to the bar, sliding our hands down our thighs like we're getting in that junior high tired during a basketball game type of position. We're setting our grip width just outside of our shins, breathing big into our belly, flexing our abs like you're about to get punched in the stomach, and then you just stand up. You're trying to have your hips and shoulders rise at the same rate, whether you're using a double overhand grip or an over-under grip. Either one is probably going to be appropriate for you as you start off. And then as the weight gets heavier, you might need to switch from double overhand to over under. And again, you can look up hook grip a little bit down the road if you want to get into that sort of thing. So hopefully you got a little bit better understanding of how to start deadlifting. If you enjoyed the video, like it, subscribe to the channel, and make sure to check out a 2-week free trial of the JuggernautAI app down at the link in the description below. Thanks for watching.